Tina. Welcome to my live. I wanted to go over and share a story about how I became a top flight attendant and from being homeless. This is something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. And I think getting into the career of being a flight attendant is very difficult to begin with. But coming from that situation, I was living in my car for 6 months. Um, it is very difficult. But I wanted to share some inspiration, share my story, how I got to live in my car and how I got out of living in my car. And there was I would say, various trials and tribulations that came throughout the process. And there's things I had to do and decisions I had to make to be in a better place. Hopefully, this can give some insight to someone maybe that has gone through a similar thing. And I want to build a community that is supportive and helpful and kind. Um, and I think the only way to do that is to be authentic. So, as some of you know, I started with Delta, and to summarize that situation, I found the culture at Delta to be very unsupportive. From the in-flight team, from the bullying that went on in training. I had a disagreement with my roommate. She was also a Black woman in real estate in Atlanta. And I was hoping that we could really support each other. And there were very small moments when we did. But I found when we had more stress in class, the more stress she took out on me. For instance, we had an argument, and then she went to the whole class and told them whatever she told them, and no one came to me. Everyone just kind of took her side like we were in high school. And from then on, it was very difficult for me. I wasn't in the study groups, I didn't have the support. And some people would say, well, why would you let Delta, go? Why would you let anyone bully you and not continue with Delta? Um, Hi everyone. Please put your name below, follow and like. And I'd love to tell you about my story. I started with Delta. I was saying that I experienced a very toxic environment at Delta where there was a lot of bullying going on. Delta does have high standards, which I appreciate. There was 90% class average that you had to get. You had to get a 90%. So even if you got an 80 on the test, 85, 89, that still wouldn't get you to a 90% class average at Delta. So you really had to know what you were doing at Delta. When I was there, this was my first experience and I was new to the aviation field. So basically, uh, someone says, ha 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 ha. Thank you for your comments. We're a positive community here, so if you're going to do that, it just makes you look kind of bad. But you can continue to do it. I really don't care. Um, it makes you look a little bit weird, but that's okay. I'll continue with my story. So basically, I found the class to be very not supportive. I think that if someone would have reached out to me and made sure that I was supported and just live by the Delta standards, which are caring, efficient, all those things, all the mission statements that they go with, then they would have helped me and supported me, and then everyone would have passed. So, I mean, they look back and you think, okay, well, it's her fault that she didn't pass. But also, you could have been supportive. You could have supported your coworker. And it wasn't like we were like fighting for our wings, right? At Delta, we're not fighting for our wings. Everyone has the wings. You just have to support everyone else. We're not competing for the wings. So I just wish we would have supported each other more. I wish my roommate would have taken the high road. Instead, she like snitched on me for things I didn't do. And she was like, bringing in feather pillows, and I'm allergic to feather pillows, seeing if I would, I don't know, have a allergic reaction. I don't know what the point of that was. And she was saying, "Oh, my neck was hurting. My neck was hurting. I need my pillows." But she was bringing blankets and pajamas and all these things from like home. Why couldn't she bring the pillows that she wanted that didn't hurt her neck if her neck was hurting so bad? So it's just like a lot of like high school things going on in Delta. And I wish that the in flight team had supported me, had actually made sure that everyone felt like, you know, like a part of the team. Because when you're working in an airplane, you basically have to make sure that you're working as a team. And if something happens, um, in an airplane, you have to make sure that you're working together. If there's a fire, if there's some reason why we have to evacuate the plane, you need to work together with people that you may not like. And you need to make sure that everyone gets out safely. So for that class to alienate me and bully me and make it so hard for me to focus, and even a teacher got in on the bullying. Like this teacher really loved my roommate and he would make jokes about me in front of the class. And then I do have a different way of learning. I don't know if you call it a learning disability. There's all types of learning disabilities where people don't learn as fast. um, Bonjour. Bonjour, salut. J'aimerais comprendre l'anglais. Alors, vous avez, what do I say? Vous avez comprendre maintenant. Alors, juste écoutez-moi et améliorer euh, votre l'anglais. So basically, a teacher, yes, actually made jokes about me in front of the class, and he favored my roommate at Delta. And instead of supporting me, there was a time when I just didn't understand what was going on. Instead of like teaching me and kind of making sure everybody in the class knew what was going on, he yelled at me in front of the class and said, "You should know this. We went over this. We're going to be flying in a week, and you don't know this." And I thought that was totally irresponsible as a teacher. He only did strategic things when the other teacher that was more supportive was out of town. So he knew what to do. He told me that I was eavesdropping one time. And so pretty soon my reputation at Delta just began to be thrown in the toilet because people would just say things that weren't true. People would gang up against me, kick me out of the study group, and pretty soon I had no support. So I'm saying this because people don't like to talk bad about Delta. Everyone's scared about Delta. Oh my gosh, don't say anything about Delta. The Delta cult will come and get you, but I want this to get out so that people can actually understand that it was a toxic environment. A person said to me, a Delta flight attendant said to me, said, "I would never let anyone get in the way of me graduating." And you say that, but when you're on an island by yourself, you're living with someone that doesn't want you to pass and that's taking out all her stress on you and making you the butt of every joke. And then you're trying to study and you already have a very hard time focusing and learning. And then you're not in a study group, and the only people that supported you left and joined the group and left you on the island, then of course, you know, you're not going to pass. After you get through the fifth, sixth week, fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, all those weeks, and you're on an island by yourself, it's not really a choice if you're going to pass or not, if you're not like the greatest student already and you don't have the support. So I want you to understand that if you are ever in a situation where you can support someone who has been ostracized in a group or alienated, that you need to make the choice to support that person and be caring because you do have a choice. Maybe you don't understand that person, maybe you don't even like the person, but you can support that person. That's going to be your future coworker, and you can be in a situation when you're on a plane and that plane needs to evacuate, and you're going to need to work together with that person, and you're going to make sure that everyone gets out safe. So I will be um outspoken about this because it does need to change at Delta. They do need to understand that bullying should not be accepted. But after I didn't pass Delta, I went all the way through in a week before graduation. I got two questions wrong, two or three questions wrong on the retake test, and I got a 90%, but I needed a 97% to pass. And unfortunately, I was just a couple questions away from that. I asked a question about that I didn't understand on the test, and I asked the supervisor at that time that was watching me take my test. I asked him, I don't understand this question. Can you help me? And he said, all I can do is read the question. So he read the question, and I said, okay. I picked my answer and I got that question right. I looked at my answers and I actually got that question right. And he went back to the in flight team and said that I cheated. So, nobody, when I say nobody was on my side, no one was on my side, not the in flight team, not the students, and not the teachers. So, when you say you could still pass, you're wrong. Because if you have no support, there's slim to no chances if that was your first aviation experience that you're going to pass. So, I would just invite those people to be more kind, to be more caring, to be more supportive, because you don't know what people are going through. So at that time, I was not homeless yet. I was living in Midtown. I was doing real estate, but I had a gap in my closings. And I don't know about you, but I can't live 2 months without a paycheck. I can't live 4 months without a paycheck. So that's when I decided to become a flight attendant. I thought it would be more stable. I like traveling. I have a great personality. I have tons of customer service experiences. So I thought it would be great. I went to Delta, passed the face to face the first time. I was so happy. I lived in France for a little while, so I do speak some French. As you can see, I'm kind of rusty on it, and I want to, go back to France to practice. Um, However, I did apply as a French speaker, and I took my French test, and I was able to go to training, and it happened so fast. I was so excited, and I was behind on my rent about 3 months already. And then when I didn't pass, I couldn't keep living in my apartment. So eventually I moved out. I asked my parents to help me, and they did help me a time before, and they have helped me many times growing up. Like I wanted to come home when I was like 20. I wanted to come home when I was like 23. I wanted to come home when I was like 27. And each time they're like, I will help you with your rent, but you're not coming home. Because I think if I would have came home at that time, I would have never left. Pourquoi tu n'as pas reçu, excusez-moi, pourquoi tu n'as pas reçu? Désolé, je viens de m'inscrire. Ah, merci beaucoup, bienvenue. Et pourquoi je n'ai pas reçu? Euh, mais pour répondre, il y a beaucoup de choses. La raison, je pas reçu, mais c'est pas une droite réponse. C'est difficile pour expliquer alors, mais mon français c'est pas bien maintenant, alors je parle l'anglais, mais ça fait longtemps depuis que je parle français. Excusez-moi, mais il y a beaucoup de choses qui est passé avec euh, contribuer pour pas réussir dans entraînement pour l'aviation. Excusez-moi, mon français est mal. Okay, so basically, I think the question said, so why weren't you successful? Thank you for subscribing to my channel. This is very hard for me to talk about. I think there were a lot of reasons why I wasn't successful. I think one, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know exactly what to study for in the aviation experience. Like, I didn't know what they expected. It was my first aviation training, and I had to go through aviation training 4 times. I went with Delta and I went with another legacy airline that I work for now. I am a flight attendant, very successful, and I did training with 2 other airlines that were regionals, which is a smaller airline. So I had to go through many steps to learn what I needed to be successful. But starting out, coming from real estate, it's a very different business. I didn't know what to do. It doesn't take you can't just come off the street and like not know anything about aviation and not know how to study, and then also have very difficult experience and toxic experience with the students. I was bullied, so a lot of those contributing factors were the reason why I wasn't successful. But no one can get someone down that doesn't give up. If you keep trying, you will be successful. And that's all that matters. You have to keep trying. And that's exactly what I did. So Delta didn't work out. I actually resigned from Delta. But they did say, like, honey, you can't come back. They were not supportive of me. I reached out to them and I wanted an apology because I don't feel like I was treated well there. I don't think that some things that were said about me were true. I think that they did not support me. I think it was a toxic environment. Merci beaucoup, très gentil, merci. Alors, mais um, I think I just wasn't ready. Like, at the end of the day, I wasn't ready. Like, I do believe that you can outsmart bullies by just not talking to them, not paying attention to them. It will be very hard in a toxic environment like training, but I should have asked for help earlier. Um, if you know your studying style, you need to know what your studying style is. Do you study well in groups? Do you study well alone? Do you have to take notes? Do you have to listen? Do you have to record? Like, you need to know your studying style that will help you pass training. So I moved out of my apartment and I went to training with a regional. I went to I ended my Delta experience in September, and in November, I went to training with a regional, another regional. It was in Charlotte, North Carolina, actually. So I packed up all my stuff in Atlanta, um, and I took all my stuff to training. And I actually dropped off some of my furniture at a girl I met in my new training class. She's like, you can store my stuff in my place. And she ended up being so toxic. Like, she wasn't giving me my stuff back. I asked her questions about the test, and she's like, she sent that text to a professor, and she's like, Tina's trying to cheat. So I'm like, wow, I thought you were going to support me. I thought you were helping me. And then she ended up telling the supervisors that I was writing her text asking about the test. And I was asking about, how the test was, what should I study, general questions, but I wasn't cheating. So another Black woman goes and says that I was cheating, and I just felt like a lot of women are against me. I talked to the in-flight team about that, and we were able to move forward from that. And then there was a girl in the class that was like, I'm going to make Tina my target. So she kept bullying me, kept bullying me. And then I found her talking about me to the other students in the class. And then she went to in-flight team, and I went to in-flight team. And it was just like, it was a basically even worse experience. Not even worse experience, but probably about the same bully toxic experience I had at Delta. And I made it all the way through. I was doing well. Um, and I just decided to study on my own, to stay away from everyone, to not participate in study groups because it seems like every time I try to participate, every time I try to be nice, that these women tear me down. So I'm like, let me just stay to myself. Let me just try to do it on my own. So that lasted, but same thing. A teacher was like, "Oh, um, I don't like what you said." And then ever since then, I don't know what happened. So what happened? So I told him he was taking favorites. I was like, you know what? I feel like you're taking favorites and you're not supporting me, and I do need support. And then he said, I I really care about my job as a teacher. And ever since then, he would catch me on everything I did, and he would make sure that he would tell, or like one time I closed my eyes so bad, we went to class a little bit earlier because it was like Thanksgiving, and he's like, "Tina, you're sleeping," and everyone in the class was like nodding off and like sleeping, but the one person that he reported was me. So he didn't have it out for me, and then he was the one that did my evacuation. So I'm here evacuating the plane. I'm trying to memorize our commands. And then he's here like, Tina, you didn't do it right. You're out. So I got booted out a week before graduation on that regional one. So that was my second chance in flight attendant training. So after that, I was like, well, I don't know what to do. It was okay, so November, December, uh and then my friend in Charlotte, yes, that's what happened. So I had a friend in Charlotte, and she was like, I'm gonna take care of your dog. I had my little puppy Webster. If you're on Instagram, his Instagram is at Webster the Rescue Dog on Instagram. And my friend was like, I'll take care of your dog. And then I'll adopt him so that you don't have to worry. And then when you're ready to get him back, you can get your dog back. And she was a manager of some Airbnbs in Charlotte, North Carolina. And um she let me stay in one of her Airbnbs that were empty. And then when someone rented that Airbnb out, she would move me to another Airbnb for the weekend or however long they were staying. So I did that, and then I applied to another regional, and they had training in January. And this training was in Miami. And this time I had a room to myself. So I was like, yes, yes, it's going to be better. I'm going to stay to myself. I was seeing a therapist, and she was like, just don't say anything that's negative because people attend to, in groups, they tend to attack me. So unfortunately, I'm like, I have to stay to myself. I can't be buddy buddy with people. I can't be caring. I can't be nice. I can't interact with the group. So I got to Miami in January. Um, my friend said she really couldn't keep my dog any longer. I asked her to keep him longer because I didn't have anyone to watch him, and she said she'd keep him. And then she texted me a few months later, and I'll get to that later. So I went to Miami. I had all my stuff. I had a room to myself, a nice hotel, and this regional was about 3 weeks, about 3 or 4 weeks. And my teachers were black, and I thought that was going to really help me, and I was going to be supported. And I was acing all my tests. And as soon as I got there, a girl was like, she had tattoos on her neck, and we're not supposed to have tattoos on our neck. It's illegal. And and I said something like, "Oh, your tattoos are pretty cool. Like, I didn't realize you had a tattoo because we went out for drinks. We were going out for the night in Miami. I used to live in Miami, so I got to return to some of my spots. We went to the Clevelander in Miami Beach. It was so nice. And everyone was like in their party clothes. And this girl, like I said, she had a tattoo on her neck. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you had a tattoo on your neck. Like, how do you cover it up? Because I didn't see it before. And she's like, there's special makeup, all this stuff. I was like, oh, cool. And we all said we're not gonna drink because we weren't getting paid that much. Um, and drinking is expensive. So she had a couple drinks and I was like, "Oh, you're drinking." And she's like, "Listen up. I don't like that you said something about my tattoos earlier and now you're judging me because I'm drinking. I ain't poor." I was like, "Oh my God, I did not say that. I didn't say that." And she went to everyone else in the group, and then nobody talked to me. No one talked to me. No one came to me. No one supported me. Everyone just kind of went their own direction and went on her side. And finally, she realized like, we can't have tattoos on our necks as a flight attendant. You just can't. You can't have a flight. You can't be a flight attendant and have a tattoo on your neck. You just can't. So she finally told on herself and she resigned. She said, I don't think this is for me. I don't want to do this. And that was it. So after she left, people still didn't talk to me. It was just like people had decided I ain't gonna talk to Tina. So again, I was on the island by myself. But this time I had already been through training and I knew everything and I knew what was going on. But this one girl was like, we were talking one day and she's like, "Oh, my dad takes care of all my bills." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God your dad is like your sugar daddy. You don't have to worry about bills. For me, I'm kind of on my own. It's kind of difficult for me." And then, um, as things got more stressful, more stressful, more stressful, the students started doing the same thing. Like they would come at me, kind of bully me, take things out on me. This one girl said that you'd never be good for the military. I was like, we're not applying to the military, honey. I know I'm not good for the military. Um, a lot of military people are good for the military. And then on the day that we were taking our safety equipment test, like they just started to gang up on me, gang up on me, gang up on me. And I'm like, you guys are bullying me. So instead of taking the responsibility and not being toxic, um, I was like, I told my instructor, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm trying to memorize this stuff, and they're talking to me, trying to start arguments with me. And I'm just trying to study. Like, I'm not trying to get in it with these people. I don't care about the people. I just care about passing. Like, so much was on the line for me. So the teacher's like, "Well, you can talk to the supervisor in the morning." And it was like between like 6 a.m. and we had class at 8. I'm like, "There's no way I'm getting up at 6 a.m. Like I went to bed at 1 a.m." And and so I said, "I just hope things will get better. I don't want to talk about it." And then the night before in the elevator, this girl that was bullying me the most, she was like, "Who pressed all these buttons? Why are you pressing all these buttons?" I said, "If you don't stop yelling at me, I'm gonna tell the supervisor that you are bullying me. And you are. You have been all day, you have been for a couple weeks, and I'm tired of it." And so she went to the supervisor before me and she let them know all these things that didn't happen. And then the next day they pulled me in on a break and they said, "We're going to release you. We just can't have people acting this way." And yeah, so you're released. We're going to send you home today. And I was like, "What? But did you want to hear my side of the story?" And they never asked me my side of the story. He gave me 1 minute to say everything that happened. And he said, "Well, yeah, we're still going to release you. All right, so we'll be in contact." And I left the class and I packed my stuff and I went back to my car. And at that point, I called my family and I said, "Well, you can you can stay in a hotel for a little bit, but then after that, you're on your own." So that was January, February, and then March, I stayed in the hotel for a couple weeks. And then at the end of March, I went to go live in my car. And that was definitely a humbling experience. I have never lived in my car before. I lived in France, I lived in Miami, I lived in Charlotte, I lived in a gated community growing up, and I never lived in my car before. I never had a lot of worries about finances. I've had my ups and downs in finances, but I've always had my family to help me. So I went to go live in my car, and it was March in Atlanta, so I thought that it was okay, the weather was kind of warm but not too hot, and everything was fine until one night I parked in a hotel in the back, and some robbers came and were smashing the windows of other cars. And I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I realized that I was next. So I had to like get up and drive off and try to escape the robbers, and they drove off. And the next morning, I saw all the cars that were broken into across the street at the Home Depot where I parked. And I said, I saw the robbers and they were breaking into cars and they almost broke into mine. I called the police, but I didn't have any description or anything. So that's when I realized it probably is not safe to live in your car for various reasons. Um, I went on dates, just to like try to connect with someone, try to get a meal, and find somewhere to stay. I learned that a lot of men, they'll help you if there's something in it for them, but no man is going to do something for free. Like he, for example, one guy that I was on a date with, he got me a hotel, but he expected something in return. And there were several guys who offered to help me, but they wanted something in return. So that wasn't good. So let's see, March, April, May, June um came around, and I had actually applied for another airline. It was a legacy airline, and I went to the face to face and I got a CJO, and I was just waiting for training to start. And I was very scared about this training because I've had so many different experiences at other training where something about me, when I get in groups, I get bullied. It's a very toxic environment, and I have trouble learning, and it's just so much to learn in a fast-paced environment, and being in a room with another person is very hard for me. I've never gotten along with girls as roommates. They've always bullied me. They've always tried to attack me in some way, either verbally or physically. It's always been that type of thing. And a lot of the girls that I live with ended up being jealous of me, ended up being like envious. And it's always of something different. Like it's always like, oh, you had that good upbringing, or oh, you went to France, oh, all this stuff. Like it's just always something very weird. Like, oh, you think you're pretty because of your hair, all this stuff. Oh, you think you're better than us. And I don't think that at all. So it's always been a jealousy reason of why someone would be a bully. And it's never been me that started it. I've never started the bullying. If I did something wrong, I've always apologized for it. I've tried to move on, but it would always be like bullying from there. So, anyways, um, I was waiting for training to start with this last airline. This would be my fourth time going to flight attendant training. And my mom's like, flight attendant training isn't for you. You need to do something else. So I applied to a cruise line, a major cruise line, and I went to training for a cruise line. And sure enough, the girls bullied me. My roommates bullied me there. This girl, it's always a younger girl. She's always like, oh, you think you're better than us. Da, da, da. You don't even have a boyfriend. You don't got a job. You don't got nothing. I'm like, what does a boyfriend have to do with anything in life? Like, I'm not even trying to get a boyfriend at this age. She's like, you're old, all this stuff. And it's always over some immature things, but I didn't allow her to like get me distracted. Like the class was very easy for me. I took the test. I always passed them with flying colors. She didn't pass all of her test. So she should have been more focused on her test and less focused on me. Um, I went to the supervisor because she went to the supervisor, tried to tell on me and things like that. And I explained my story. And luckily, we were able to move on from that. And I finished training for the cruise line successfully. But the cruise line didn't need us for about 4 or 5 months. And when they called me, I was already in training for the airline that I work for now. Um, so before that, though, after I got home from the cruise line, I went back to my car because where else was I supposed to go? I lived in my car. I took a shower at the gym. I got food where I could. Sometimes there was donations and food banks that we had that I can go to get some fresh food. I was able to use assistance to get food sometimes. And it was very difficult. And then I realized that my feet were swelling up. Let me take a drink of water. Um, Thank you guys for the questions. Please like this live. Please subscribe. I'm sharing because I want to inspire someone. Um, and I think that the only way to inspire people is to be authentic. Um, so after I got home from the cruise line training, I successfully passed. And then my feet started swelling up, and I didn't know why. I would be showing houses as a real estate agent during the day. Um, and then I go to the library to do some marketing and get some cool air because by this time it was like June in Atlanta. It was very hot. June, July in Atlanta is very hot. And unfortunately, I didn't know what was wrong with me. After I went to a house, I showed a client virtually, like he was on the phone and I FaceTimed him. He wanted to see this condo, and I was showing him the condo on the phone, and I couldn't breathe. And that night, I went to go get some food because I don't have refrigeration in my car. So I had to go get food every day, and I got some dinner, and I just couldn't walk like 2 steps. Like I could not breathe. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Um, a friend of mine that I thought she was a friend, I met her online. She offered for me to stay at her house for 2 weeks. And I noticed that when I stayed in the bed and I was able to put my feet up, the swelling in my feet went down. And when I went back to my car, my feet started to swell up again. Because when I was in my car, I had suitcases all around me. I had, excuse me, suitcases in the back seat. So all I could do is sit in the driver's side with my feet down and just kind of lean back. And um, I didn't really realize the dangers of sleeping in your car. Besides men, besides robbers, besides different attacks, um, there was just a lot that happened. There was a roach that got in my car one time and it was crawling around my neck and it was so disgusting. Like I was so disgusted. But yeah, so I was showing a house this day. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know if it was anxiety because I had training coming up and I was scared that I was going to be bullied like I had before, and attacked for my character of things I never did. I was so scared to go back to training. And living with someone else, and I know that I can't really get along with people in close quarters. Even though I try my best, it just never works out. It started in college when my college roommate would like bully me. We became friends after college, but the RA in my college was like, they're jealous of you. And I never realized that someone would be jealous of me because I'm like, why? Why? But I'm like, grew up in a affluent neighborhood, went to school in Paris, my hair is beautiful, my smile's beautiful, like I'm beautiful. I used to model. Like there's plenty of reasons why someone is jealous of someone else and you did nothing to provoke it. You're just being yourself. So I was just being myself, and this has always happened with women, in particular Black women, in particular women my age or younger. Older women who are self-assured, who are successful, never are a problem. They're never judging anyone else. They're never bullying anyone else because they don't have time, and they always want to send support because they've been to where that person has been. So anyways, I'm showing this house. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to get dinner. I couldn't breathe. I finally got my dinner. I went back to my car. I used to park at Home Depot and I had my whole security team watching out for me. There was this guy, his name is Don, Don. He used to like drive around and make sure that I was safe. And he told the whole team, like, make sure Tina's safe. But really, I was not supposed to be parking there. So it was a godsend that he watched over me in my car and he didn't try to take advantage of me. Um, uh, and his birthday was the same day as mine at the end of December. So it's just like I met someone that was just as caring as me, just as righteous, just as nice and kind as I was. So I said goodnight to Dawn um and then like in the morning I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. I called the nurse hotline and I said, "What's wrong with me? I couldn't breathe." I called the nurse hotline months before because um unfortunately my feet were swelling up like I said before, and I asked them why why were my feet swelling up, and they said maybe because you have cholesterol issues. My cholesterol was fine. I didn't have cholesterol issues. um and so I called the nurse line and they said it could be anxiety or it could be heart issues, we don't know. And um about 5 hours later, I did some meditation in my car. I just tried to relax. It was getting really hot. And eventually I was like, I cannot breathe and I'm going to go drive myself to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital. It was like 10 minutes away and I parked. And I tried to get out of the car, but I couldn't breathe. And finally, I'm like, okay, that security card guard is there. I'm gonna try to see if he can help me. And I got out of my car, and the security guard helped me. And he's like, "Do you want to go to the urgent care?" Or like I was planning to go. I was planning to go to the urgent care, but he's like, "Or do you want to go to the ER?" And he took me to the ER, and they wheeled me in on a wheelchair, and I started like passing out and I threw up on myself. And the nurses and emergency team were so great at Grady. They helped me, they saved my life. They got me in the CT scan right away. And they found out that I had a massive blood clot in my lungs that spanned all the way across my lungs. And that if I didn't get to the ER when I did, I would have died. So I stayed in the ICU, which is the critical unit, intensive care unit, for 6 days. And I'm on blood thinners for the rest of my life. So this kind of opened up my eyes to the dangers of living in your car. Like, you need to put your feet up, you have to be safe. Like, you need to make sure that you are safe, and that you are well taken care of, and that you are circulating your blood. Because I realized when I was sitting in my car that my nerves were kind of pinching, like my leg was falling asleep because I was sitting in a chair all night. So that is probably why I got the blood clot. But my doctor's like, there's other people who live in their cars, unfortunately, but they don't get blood clots. So I don't know why I got the blood clot. But it was definitely an event that had to help happen before I was in the air. Because can you imagine? I'm in the air and this happened, like I would have died. So I'm just happy I did not die, that I'm still alive, that I got it taken care of before I got in the air. Um, and yeah, so a week later, I went to training and some of the same stuff happened with the bullying. My roommate and I got along really well at first, and I was like, yes, finally, there's a roommate that I get along with first. And then we started to argue, and instead of like working it out together, she went straight to in-flight team, and it just got worse and worse and worse. A guest teacher said that I was making faces. I'm always making faces, like this is my face. um and then Yeah, and then I think after I got out of the hospital, my heart was enlarged, and I was very tired, and I was still recovering, but I think I closed my eyes one time, and a teacher said that I was sleeping, and they brought me in and they said, "Well, we have this, this, and this on you, and we're gonna have to send you home." And I was devastated because this was the fourth time I was in training, and they sent me home. And they asked me to put my statement, to submit a statement. And this is what the other airline should have done. They should have waited till I had my statement. I told them that I was living in my car. Oh my God. I was living in my car and I had nothing to go back to. And, um, I told them that that day was so weird. They were calling me by different names. Like, I wasn't making faces, but I was ashamed that I wasn't getting it well. I wasn't learning as fast as they wanted me to learn. And I just felt like it was the same thing that happened at Delta. And I was so hurt. I was like, this is the last chance I have. I'm not going through training again. You don't know how hard training is. Like, it is so hard to be in a room with another adult and to be learning early in the morning till late at night in a stressful environment. And I just told them that exactly what happened. And I had so much support from my team. Like, everyone in my class supported me, and they're like, "We miss you, Tina. We want you to come back. We're so upset that you're gone." And a week later, they brought me back, and I was able to finish training from the day that I left off, and I finished training successfully, and I graduated. And not even a year later, I got top 10 flight attendant, and I won this based on customer feedback. And the company took me to the World Cup and paid for everything. And I was able to, have a successful career as a flight attendant. And it's just been so great. Like, so many things have happened that I can't even discuss, but I have shared so much right now. I want to tell you that if you're going through a hard time, keep going, because no one can keep someone down that doesn't give up. I do have a digital download that helps you get through training the first time. I help you become a flight attendant. And then I also have another digital download that will help you through training. I give you steps to help you pass successfully the first time. I will link it below, and also follow me on TikTok. I have the link to those digital downloads in my bio. They are on Gumroad, Real Talk Tina. I'm the same name on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and here. So follow me. This digital download that I have for you to be successful, it doesn't really help me any. It's not really expensive. It's under $30. So if you want to learn how to become a flight attendant, you can go through this process only one time, when I went through it four times. So I can almost tell you anything, general knowledge, of course, that will help you significantly. And I hope that this helps someone get through a hard time. And I think the tips I would share is just to say less. Say less, because no matter what you say, people can use it against you. Um, I think that if I had just said less in training, said less to my roommate, said less to the in-flight team, said less to my instructors, then I wouldn't have been in this situation. But here I can talk to you guys. This is the real talk. This is my channel, and I choose what I say, and I'm here to inspire and to teach you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes as I do. So I hope this helps someone. It was a little emotional, but this is the real talk, and I'm just here for you all. Follow and like below. Bisous.